you really eager to learn to approach, attract, and date more attractive women in your life? If so, then today I'm going to share with you 7 books you absolutely have got to read. Obviously, the skills and lessons that I teach men when I'm helping them to be more attractive to women, I didn't invent them. They come from psychological research papers and books that I've read over the years, because I've learned to trust proper data, proper scientific research, more than I trust so-called pickup artists. So today I'm going to be sharing with you 7 books not written by pickup artists that you've absolutely got to read if you want to become more successful with women. Keep watching to find out what they are. Now, book number 1 on my list is No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert Glover, and it's my most recommended book these days. Why? Because it helps men deal with what's called the nice guy syndrome, and it looks at it from a psychological standpoint, not a pickup artist standpoint. So Dr. Robert Glover, what he's realized is, working with a lot of clients as a psychiatrist, he's noticed that there tends to be a pattern of behavior in men who use niceness to try to get women and men, but often women, to like them. And that creates a cycle of men feeling resentful, feeling like they've been walked all over by women, feeling like women in general just take advantage of them, and they never end up in relationships where they feel valued and loved. That sounds like you, and it quite possibly does, because so many men that I work with struggle with this, myself and my past included. Then I highly recommend you read this book. Book number 2 on my list is, surprisingly, my second most recommended book to guys. It's called The Female Brain by Dr. Louann Brizendine. Now, I stumbled across this book by accident. I was just trawling through Amazon one day, wondering what I would read, and thought, this looks interesting. And essentially, Dr. Brizendine, she looks at the maturation of the female brain as a woman goes from being a child, a little baby, to becoming a full-grown woman, to become an older woman. And at face value, you think, well, that might be interesting, but how will that help me with attraction? Well, it really does, because the female brain, it gives you this really clear insight into what it is like to be a woman. The changing hormone levels, what they do to you, how the brain changes as women ages, the different emotional cycles that women go through. And that insight really enabled me to not just connect with women when I'm talking to them, but it enabled me to alter the way that I approach and attract them, because I had a much sharper understanding of really what's going on inside of their minds. Book number 3 is called The Inner Game of Tennis by Timothy Galloway, actually one of the few non-doctors on my list here. Don't let the name of this book fool you. Although this book is all about tennis and the inner game of tennis, it applies massively to the inner game of anything, including being more attractive to women. See, a lot of guys struggle with the internal dialogue that happens inside their heads. They think about all the negative past experiences they've had with women. They think about all of the lessons they've been told, the negative lessons by well-meaning family and friends about women and what women want and how women behave. And they let that guide them, and they can't let go of it. A lot of men struggle and they feel like, I have no value to women. How do you change it? How do you overcome this negative self-talk? Well, The Inner Game of Tennis goes into great detail about how to change a lot of these negative beliefs. A highly recommend book. Number 4 on the list is one of my personal favorites. It's called How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big by Scott Adams. Now, if you don't know the name Scott Adams, he is actually the author or the narrator, the drawer of the Dilbert comics. And basically it's a story about his life and all the massive failures that he had in his life, but how every massive failure that he had was 100% necessary for him to achieve the big successes that he had in the end. And not in the end, ongoing in his life. And this was, it's a very easy lesson to hear and to understand logically. Yes, you've got to fail in order to succeed. But the reason why I recommend this book to so many guys is because we really need to internalize it. It's one thing to understand up here, but it's a complete other to truly believe it in our gut and to truly understand how important it is to fail in order to succeed. If dealing with failure is something that you particularly struggle with, this is my most recommended book to deal with that issue specifically. Book number 5 on my list is called The Like Switch, and it's written by Dr. Schafer, who was actually an ex-FBI recruiter, and he realized that The FBI has really mastered a number of skills because it has studied human behavior for a long time. And one of the things the FBI has gotten really, really good at is approaching people and making those people like them and be influenced by them highly effectively, because the FBI needs to do that. It needs to turn people into informants. It needs to get people to do things they're scared of doing, worried about doing, unsure about doing, right? About creating massive amounts of trust and likability in a really short amount of time. So, as you can imagine, this is really, really powerful when it comes to dating and attraction as well. Because oftentimes when you approach a woman, you've only got a small window of opportunity to make her like you and make her want to connect with you. So the strategies in this book have proven to be really powerful. I've loved it. I got some of my biggest insights from this book. So if this is something you really want to work on, you struggle to hook in interactions to get women to like you quickly and want to hang out with you, this is the book for you. Number 6 on my list is called Influence, The Power of Persuasion by Dr. Robert Cialdini. Now, this book is rare in that it's one of those few books that I picked up and I just could not put down. It was so riveting, it was gripping, because it talks about all the secret ways in which human behavior is formed and shaped and controlled, right? And after you read this book, you look at the world around you and you'll be able to see these principles in action everywhere. You won't see a commercial, an ad campaign. You won't talk to a salesperson who isn't using many of these techniques and strategies at once. You're going to suddenly realize that influence is everywhere. So this book is really a primer on human behavior and how it gets controlled. Controlled is a bad way because we're not trying to control women, but how it can be influenced, right, by the actions that we take and what we do and the way that we position arguments and the way that we market ourselves. So this book is probably the 3rd most recommended book of all time that I tell men that they've got to read. Plus, it's just riveting. It's really well written. I definitely suggest you grab a copy and have a look through it. Number 7 on my list. This could be a little bit controversial. It is Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. So why would this be controversial? Well, it's controversial for the same reason that I put it at the end of my list. First of all, it's an old book. It's been around for a long time. Now, the reason I put it at the end of my list is because if you suffer from nice guy syndrome, if you're in the habit of constantly trying to please people and suck up to people, this is not the first book you should read. You see, a lot of the strategies in this book are incredibly powerful. They really do form the bedrock, the baseline of how to be likable. There's a reason this book is still popular to this day. It's stood the test of time. But the problem is that you can easily apply the lessons learned in this book in a way that just makes you look like a suck-up, like you're trying to make people like you, and it won't work at all. So if you suffer from nice guy syndrome, you absolutely must read my number 1 recommended book, right? No More Mr. Nice Guy, before you read this. However, once you've got that under wraps, this book is still the bomb, right? It is still, like, you can still use these strategies to create massive likability. Now, there is some crossover between this and the like switch that I mentioned earlier, but honestly, this is the granddaddy of all books when it comes to being liked by other people. And at the end of the day, a woman's got to like you to want to sleep with you. Say what you will, she's got to like you. Some part of her has to really dig you. Just one example lesson, for example, that can easily be screwed up. If you, for example, we like people who compliment us. But if you go up to women, you're just complimenting them, trying to suck up to them, they're never going to like you. They're going to see you as a suck up. They're going to be repulsed. But if you learn to make women work for a compliment, in other words, you only give your compliments sparingly, but when you do, the few times you do, you make them really, really genuine and really, really specific. And that person, that woman, feels like she's earned it. She's going to continue to work for compliments from you. That's just one example of a lesson from How to Win Friends and Influence People that is really powerful and has really found its way into a lot of my work. Speaking about ways that a lot of these books have found their way into my work, guys, you can read these books and I highly recommend them. But I'll tell you what, these books and so many more, the greatest hits from each and every single one of these books has found its way into my Sincere Seduction online program. If you'd like to avoid having to read all these books and instead follow a course that takes the best of these and puts them into a course focused on attracting beautiful women, then check out my Sincere Seduction online course. Basically, it's 20 hours of online theory content where I'm going to hold your hand every step of the way, teaching you how to overcome your fear of approaching women, overcome your negative dialogue, how to approach, how to build attraction, how to build rapport, how to tease, how to flirt, how to sexually escalate, how to sustain casual sex relationships, how to sustain healthy long-term relationships, and absolutely everything in between. And what's more, I've got a really special deal. Actually, it's a really killer deal running right now. Go ahead and check the discount code that I've put up on the screen right now. Follow the link that I'll put up in the corner and down in the comments below. If you'd like to take advantage of that, jump on it, because the special offer is only going to be available for a very limited time. So, have you read any of these books? Are there any really great books you think I should recommend in future videos? Because if you guys like this one, there are so many more books that I'd highly recommend. I had a huge, difficult time trying to pick just 7 for this list. Any more recommendations? I'd love to see them. Any I haven't heard of, I'll give you a special shout out in my next video, because I love to find new books worth reading. Let me know in the comments below. As always, guys, if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click the little bell icon so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. That's it for now. I'm Damien. Have a fantastic week.